The QK75N is the newest 75% keyboard from Qwertykeys. It is gasket mounted and it features a stepped rotary encoder, also known as a knob, but not the British kind, unfortunately. Also has a small TFT screen, which is kind of the trend in 2023. And it also is a tri-mode PCB. What that means is it has 3 connectivity options. You have standard wired mode, Bluetooth up to 3 devices, as well as a 2.4 gigahertz wireless option via the included dongle. So in this video, we're going to do a quick build overview, and then I'll show you my thoughts and impressions. Cool? Let's get started. So included in your kit, you're going to get a carrying case. You'll get a keycap puller, a switch puller, a hex screwdriver, your gaskets, some extra case feet, extra screws, and some extra ribbon cables for your screen. You also get a standard USB-A to USB-C cable. In the case, you'll also get a set of Owl Labs stabilizers that just come included. Here you'll find pretty much all your foam, plate foam, PCB foam, and the PCB itself. And then you'll have your plate of choice. I picked up the FR4 plate. So my case actually already came with the case foam laid inside of it. But of course, this foam is optional, and you can just remove it if you want to. There's actually a bunch of really cool case color options, but I went with retro red just because I'm really into that like nostalgic game kind of vibe. The 2.4 gigahertz wireless dongle and the case badge are actually found in the same box as the cable. So if you can't find it, it'll probably be here. It took me actually quite a while to locate it, and I just did not know that it was going to be with the cable. So starting on your build, you are going to want to lube your stabilizers. I 100% recommend that you lube your stabilizers for just optimal sound and feel and everything. So for lube, I'm using Krytox 205, but you can use whatever you think is suitable, but I do recommend like a little bit of a heavier grease. So when lubing your stabilizers, you're pretty much going to want to lube the stem, the inside of the housing, pretty much anywhere the plastic meets plastic. Then you're going to want to lube the wire where the wire will just insert into the stabilizer housing itself. If you're new to building and you're not quite sure how to put your stabs together, remember that the stem will have 2 holes. You want those 2 holes facing the outside where the wire clips in. And then you want to have your wire pass all the way through the bottom hole and make sure that you can lift up the stem like this. So next we're going to want to put down our Teflon pads. These came in the stabilizer box, and you're just going to want to put them on the PCB where your stabilizers are going to go and screw in. So at this point, if you're going to want to use the PCB foam, you are going to want to put that down right now. Just remember to cut out these little bits of foam here so they don't interfere with your stabilizers. After screwing on your stabilizers, we are going to go and prepare our plate and PCB assembly. So if you're going to want to use the plate foam, you will want to drop that on right now, but just remember to break off the bit of foam right here where your space bar stabilizers are going to be, and then lay your plate down on top. So for switches, I'm going to go with WS Morandi. These are linear switches with a palm top and bottom housing and a UPE stem. The spring is an 18mm double stage spring, and it bottoms out at 60 grams of force. So I've actually been really enjoying the WS Nightfall switch that I put in the Mode Envoy, so I thought I wanted to go with another WS switch. So when you're putting in your switches, it's actually recommended to start with the center switches just to avoid any plate deformation, especially if you're using a softer plate like Palm. So after all your switches are in, now we can open up the case. There's actually only 4 screws to deal with, and you can use the included driver if you don't have one of your own, but these are 4 T6 hex screws. Since I'm going to be using all the foam for this build, I'm actually just going to leave the case foam right here. Now, the cool thing about this keyboard is that there's actually no tiny JST cable to worry about when you're connecting the tiny USB-C daughter board to the main board. There's just this magnetic connection that will align these contact pins, and the TFT screen as well also has pretty similar contact pins and pads. So at this point, you want to throw on your gaskets right in these notches here. And then you can just place the PCB on top of the bottom case, and the contact pins should align and connect. If you want to use the wireless functionality of this board, don't forget to turn on your battery. Just flick this tiny switch here, and that'll turn your battery on. Now you want to go and put your top and bottom case back together. By the way, if you're like me and you're wondering what dongle pod 75 is supposed to mean, apparently it means that this is a pod for your dongle for your 75% board. I feel like this is a pretty much like love it or hate it kind of thing. I kind of wish it said something else, like maybe not dongle pod 75, but what can you do? By the way, I heard down the grapevine that Qwertykeys might be offering some alternative badges here. So if that's true and you hate Donglefod 75, you can maybe switch this out with something else. All right, all that's left now is to put on your keycaps. So I'm going to go with DCX9009 just because I thought the retro beige and gray would kind of fit the retro theme of this keyboard. So overall, it's actually a pretty easy build experience. You just have the 4 screws to get inside your board, and then the magnetic pins that align your PCB and your daughter board just make everything super, super easy. So first impressions, I actually really like these keycaps with this color. I think the retro beige of 9009 matches this retro red super well, and it just kind of gives off a really good retro vibe. And this case badge, I love this case badge. I love this case badge a lot. This is the one that comes with the retro red, beige, cream colorway that I got. And I think it just matches everything super well. So with all the foam inside the keyboard, it has a pretty deep, nice, thocky kind of feel. It's pretty similar to the QK75 with all the foam inside, which is kind of not surprising. But if this is the sound that you like, it is marbly, it is thocky, and it's super satisfying to hear. So fully built, the board is about 2 kilograms, which is
4.409 pounds.
4.409 pounds. Even with all the foam inside the board, it still has a pretty decent amount of flex. It's not like a crazy amount of flex, but it's not super stiff either. I would probably call this just the right amount of keyboard flex. So the switches that you use on your keyboard, I think, have a pretty big influence overall on sound and feel and all that. And I love how the Marandi switches feel in this keyboard. The 2-stage spring kind of helps with like a super nice, satisfying key press. It feels like you hit your bottom out force like relatively fast. And then you have this nice snapback, but without using a heavier spring weight. So it feels like a lot of custom keyboards in 2023 have either a knob or a screen, but this one has both. Speaking of that screen, by the way, I don't know if I am the right person for this kind of thing. I don't really use a screen for too much. I pretty much only use it to double check my connectivity, like what mode I'm in. And that's really it. I don't use it to check the time. I don't really set it to a GIF that just loops on my keyboard. Like if I wanted to check the time, I'm like way more likely to just look at the system tray, the menu bar, or just the watch that I'm wearing. I just don't really think to look down, like that far down on my desk. And because of that, I think like the functionality, the novelty of the screen is like a little bit wasted on me. So the screen itself can actually only be customized using their software, which is called QK75N. The board also isn't VIA or VIAL compatible. So if you were expecting to just use VIA, you can't. So if you wanted to change your key config, test your keys, record macros, pretty much anything that you use VIA for, you will have to use the software for all that. Luckily though, it kind of looks like VIA. So if you've used VIA before, or you're just familiar with VIA, there's pretty much like no learning curve to QK config. So if you're going to be uploading a custom GIF to your keyboard, there is a 128 frame maximum frame limit for any GIF that you put on the keyboard. So don't think you can put like a whole movie on here or anything like that. Not that you would enjoy watching a movie on your keyboard. You can store up to 3 GIFs on the keyboard, but you can save more than that in the software. So you can upload all the GIFs you want to use and then just kind of swap them out as you feel like. You can also make your own GIFs in the software if you were okay with kind of like drawing them out pixel by pixel. Right now the software is PC only, but recently they did introduce a beta for Mac. So if you are only on Mac OS, you can still pick up this keyboard and you can probably still customize it. But I haven't tested it on Mac OS as of right now, so I have no guarantee or opinion on how the software works on Mac. So by default, the board actually has Mac support, and you can toggle that by hitting FN and the Windows key. But what that basically just does is it just switches the mapping of Windows key and Alt. I personally never use Mac mode on this keyboard, even when I am connecting it to a Mac. And I think that's just because I'm like used to how Windows keyboards work on Mac with Option and Command just being swapped. Like it's kind of ingrained in my muscle memory at this point, and I don't think I would switch it on the keyboard. So while I feel that having to install another piece of software on your computer is kind of annoying, once you configure your keyboard the way you want to, you have all your macros set, you have your 3 favorite GIFs like on your keyboard, I feel like you're not going to want to actually open the software all that much anymore unless you're like a super heavy macro user. So overall, I think the QK75N is a pretty good board. The build process is super simple, and that's great for beginners. And even if you're not brand new to building keyboards, I think just a simple build process is super appreciated, just no matter who you are. When it comes to the wireless, I don't actually see myself using the wireless functionality of the board all too much. I've used it once so far, and that was just to have the keyboard in my lap with a blanket over on top because I was like super cold, but so far that's it. It's still a nice option to have. And if you're the kind of person to bring your keyboard outside, like to the coffee shop to work or something like that, I feel like it might be, in that case, a way more important feature. Just as long as you're okay with bringing a 2 kilogram keyboard in your backpack every day. So if you're in the market for a premium sounding, premium feeling keyboard, I don't think you can go wrong with this keyboard. I think it looks great. I think it sounds great, and it'll probably stay on my desk for a while. All right, so that's gonna do for this video. So I hope you got something out of this. If you want another keyboard related video to watch, you can check out this video here, where we put on some VTuber inspired keycaps onto the Mode Envoy. But if not, and you want something completely different, you can check out this video where we go to Shibuya, check out some pop-up stores, and we pick up this little light back here. Either way, thanks for watching. I super appreciate it. Subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.